Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are so excited to bring you a really great event today. I'm Megan Mance with the Homeland Security Dialogue Forum, and HSDF has been around since 2003 to foster communication and collaboration between the public and private sectors on a range of security issues. And so for the past 2 years, HSDF has been partnering with the Center for Public Policy Innovation on a series of events to explore IT modernization efforts across the government. And you'll be hearing from my colleague, Chris Wong with CPPI a little bit later on in the program. And so we're delighted to bring you today an excellent program in hybrid cloud and how it delivers capability to federal agencies and some of the remaining security challenges. So we hope that you'll leave today feeling much more informed and confident on this particular set of issues. And I do want to extend a special thanks to our event partners, Dell Technologies, Carahsoft, Google Cloud, McAfee, and Oracle. And just a couple of quick housekeeping items to get us started today. So you should have received a link to our briefing book and the event reminder that went around. And that's where you'll find the agenda for today, all of the speaker bios, and some other helpful resources. And so you may have noticed that attendees do not have video or audio enabled right now, and we intend to keep it that way during the event, but we do want to encourage audience engagement through the use of polls and the Q&A function. So we'll have a few polls popping up throughout the program, and you can submit your responses to the polls, which will all be anonymous. And you can also use the Q&A feature to submit any questions that you have for our speakers. So today's event is completely live. Nothing has been pre-recorded. And while we don't anticipate any technical issues, we do appreciate your patience, especially with a couple of the transitions. So we have over 350 people registered to attend today's webinar, and we're just so glad to see the interest from both industry and government groups. So I do want to mention also, we have not invited any media to this event, and we'd like to keep the conversation off the record. So we ask that you please respect that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first keynote speaker today, Mr. Grant Schneider. I think many of you are familiar with Mr. Schneider. He serves as the Federal Chief Information Security Officer in the Office of Management and Budget. And in this role, he leads a team of experts to develop cross-cutting policies to enhance cybersecurity across federal agencies. And he's been very much focused on 3 major buckets: enhancing the defensive posture of agencies, leveraging government-wide capabilities to mitigate threats, and improving information sharing and incident response. In 2015, Mr. Schneider played a pivotal role in the government response to the OPM cybersecurity breach, and he's held other positions in the White House as cybersecurity advisor to the federal CIO, and prior to that, he was the CIO for the Defense Intelligence Agency. So Mr. Schneider, thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to your keynote remarks and hearing your perspective on hybrid cloud policy and how we can collectively work together to enhance security.
Great, Megan, thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks to you and Kate for hosting today's event. I am pleased to be with all of you today, although I have not yet gotten used to just staring at myself and talking. I definitely am looking forward to when we can get back to having audiences and be in the same room, but we are certainly not at that point yet. So I want to touch on today's topic, securing the hybrid cloud environment. This is a really important topic. I think it's very timely. As far as when we look at federal agencies, we all live in hybrid environments, right? We have some on-prem capabilities. We have all of our agencies have some cloud capabilities. They usually have 2 or 3 different types of cloud capabilities. And so the fact that we're in this hybrid environment definitely adds to the challenges that come along with securing that environment. And so one of the things that, one of the things that when we look at that, we have to be able to be sure that we've got the situational awareness that we need. And so I want to talk through some of the things that we do from our organization, from an OMB perspective, to help agencies move in that direction. Because as we have reached out and continue to kind of change the shape of our enterprises and our architectures, as we add these leveraging more shared services, leveraging more cloud services, we're increasing our threat surface, right? And at the same time, we're increasing our threat surface and changing our threat surface. We also have malicious actors who are looking for ways to further either their policy outcomes or their economic gains through malicious cyber activity. And certainly, as we've seen during this national pandemic, a massive shift to telework across government, across industry, across education, all of us in both our personal and professional lives, this has been a significant shift. It has certainly created some seams in our security posture and seams that adversaries are going to try to take advantage of. And so when we look at what my organization does inside of the Office of Management and Budget, and if you read the Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014, which is relatively accessible as laws go and being readable, the OMB director is really charged with a number of things if you look in there in the legislation, but I think it boils down to about three main elements. And as the Federal Chief Information Security Officer, myself and my team really implement those on the director's behalf. And first and foremost is developing and overseeing the implementation or adoption of cybersecurity policies. So setting policies for agencies to follow that outline what steps they need to take in order to secure their environments, whether it's their on-prem environment, their cloud environment, or the reality is the hybrid environment that they are all living and operating in. And quite frankly, we expect to continue to be living and operating in. The government, we tend to own one of everything, and therefore we have to secure all of those environments. So basically setting those policies and working closely with agencies to be sure that they adopt and actually implement those policies. Role one for our team. Role two for our team is ensuring that agencies are protecting federal data and federal information systems commensurate with the potential risk of harm from a compromise. So what does that really mean? Risk management. Right, making sure and laying the groundwork for agencies to take a risk management approach to how they are securing their environments. As far as how do they determine what is most critical? So we provide policies such as the high value asset policy that helps agencies as they work to identify their most critical assets so that they can secure them appropriately and identify the least critical assets so they're investing the appropriate amount of money and security resources into them. And then the third piece is ensuring that federal agencies are complying with any government-wide cybersecurity requirements. And so those could be laws, legislation, they could be OMB memos, memo policies that we put out, they could be binding operational directives from the Department of Homeland Security, or they could be standards and guidance from the National Institute of Standards and Technology inside of the Department of Commerce. And so making sure that agencies are implementing everything or complying with everything, which, compliance gets a bad rap inside of cybersecurity. I really view the compliance as, necessary but not sufficient. So whenever we can have a compliance checklist, that's great. However, that doesn't really get us to the security piece. So when we talk about managing agencies' involvements and really measuring their results, we take what's in the FISMA legislation, we couple that with our cross-agency priority goals through the President's management agenda, and really use those to oversee what agencies are doing and indeed to help them make this risk management decisions in their environment. And so when we look at putting policies out, one of the things that we have to balance along those lines is making sure that we are putting policies out that balance the need to be as specific as possible so agencies know what they need to do, and yet are broad and flexible enough because every one of our agencies looks a little different, operates a little different, has a different architecture. And so, we're looking for what is always the right balance of, giving them as much guidance as possible and giving them the flexibility, because, as we start to look at everyone having a different environment and everyone's shift to the cloud and everyone's shift into the cloud in different ways and to different degrees, we really need agencies to have that flexibility. At the same time, we want agencies to modernize, right? We have been very focused on IT modernization, and that includes rapid shifting to cloud environments to decrease long-term costs and certainly long-term capital expenditures, and shifts towards shared services. And those both bring in a level of complexity that some of our old policies didn't quite handle. And so you've seen us provide updates across our trusted internet connection policies, across our identity policies. I mentioned high value asset policies. And we also updated our cloud policy from a cloud first approach to a cloud smart approach last year. And there were really three things that, three key elements that I want to touch on for us today on the cloud environment, or the cloud smart approach and environment. First and foremost is security, and really moving to a security environment that has the flexibility and shifts from, a perimeter security. We still need to do perimeter security. I don't think perimeters are going to go away per se, but they've radically shifted as we move towards mobile solutions and mobile capabilities and cloud capabilities. And so we need to shift our security posture to really be about the data and, providing the security for the data, where the data is at, and kind of meeting it on its own terms. And so, inside of that policy, we think we provide the flexibility and really the drive to get agencies there. Secondly is around the identity of who and what is operating on our tools and on our capabilities and our systems, both as either machines, as people, as tools, as individuals. What does that look like? How can we be certain of who is operating and what they are doing? Because a malicious outsider looks like an insider on day one, right? As soon as they get in, they start to look like they get real credentials or valid credentials, and they start to look like an insider. So we need to know what everyone is doing and what normal looks like. And when we have shifts like we've had this year to massive telework, we need to re-baseline what normal looks like so we continue to search for those anomalies. And then we're also working closely with agencies on how we develop that workforce, right? 2 years ago, the president signed the American Cybersecurity Workforce Executive Order that talks about how we ensure we've got the workforce we need inside the federal government, as well as the workforce we need across the nation. And that really falls into a couple areas. One is reskilling. So how do we get people into, the key roles around cloud security, around IT modernization, around cyber? How do we get people who are familiar with the government, already in the government, know how it works, are passionate about their service, and get them into some of the places where we have more needs? So reskilling is a piece of that. How do we recruit? How do we recruit more people into the government to support, and even the people, and then how do we train those folks while they're in the government? And even the people that we lose from the government that go out into industry, they're still part of the security ecosystem, whether they're working for industry or they're working in the government, and helping to enhance the security of our nation as a whole. So, from securing the hybrid cloud environment, our role is to provide the flexibility. At every agency, it becomes an individualized approach to that risk management solution, and making sure that they are balancing what they need. And then we're really just working with them to be sure that if they need support from another agency that's already solved one of the problems or challenges they're facing, or they need technical assistance from the Department of Homeland Security or someone else, that we can bring those in, but really create a partnership to be sure we secure that environment. So I think you guys have a great program set up for today. I look forward to hearing it and hearing about all the feedback that comes out of the dialogue. And Kate and Megan, I want to turn back to you back to you, Megan, since you showed up on the screen. And thank you again for the opportunity to speak to everyone today.
Great. Well, thanks, Mr. Schneider. We really appreciate it. And I think you teed up a lot of excellent topics that we're going to delve into in a little more detail with our panels. So really appreciate you being here today. And